Imagine waking up from emergency surgery, your body numb, legs heavy, barely able to move, and the first voice you hear is your stepfather's, cold and furious. "You better start earning your keep." You beg for just 2 weeks to heal, doctor's orders. Instead, his hand slams across your face. You crash to the hospital floor, blood pouring from your lip, the world spinning. Nurses scream, police storm in, but that brutal slap isn't the worst thing he's done. The real horror is slower, deadlier. A poison destroying your mom from the inside while he smiles. This is the true story of how I uncovered his evil plan and took back our lives. Stay until the end. You won't believe how it ends. My name is Sarah Thompson. I'm in my late 20s, and before that hospital bed became my world, I juggled a retail job by day and freelance creative work at night. It wasn't fancy, but it covered some bills and kept the lights on in the house my father left us. My dad, John Thompson, fought a long, cruel illness that drained our savings one medical bill at a time until there was nothing left to fight with. When he died, the house felt empty and cold. His jacket still hung by the door. His coffee mug sat untouched in the sink. My mom, Linda Thompson, tried to stay strong for me, but I saw how grief slowly bent her shoulders and dulled her eyes. That's when Mark Reynolds entered our lives. He seemed like the answer to our prayers, charming, confident, and always ready with solutions. He promised to handle the finances so Mom could finally rest. 6 months later, they were married. I watched him move his things in, telling myself this was good for us. At first, things felt better. Then, little by little, everything changed. Bills stopped appearing on the kitchen table. Mom no longer looked at the bank statements. Mark said he had it all under control. When I asked questions, he brushed them off. If I pushed, he reminded me how lucky we were to have him. Mom began to fade. She grew tired, then confused. She'd start a sentence and forget the ending, staring blankly at ordinary things like the stove. Mark called it stress and grief. Every morning he lined up her vitamins on the counter and watched until she swallowed every one. I pushed down my worry and kept working, and even paid rent to stay in my childhood bedroom. I told myself this was what family required: sacrifice. Then my appendix ruptured. The pain was sudden and blinding. I collapsed on the bathroom floor, curled in agony. Emergency surgery saved my life, but waking up felt like being trapped in someone else's broken body. The doctor was clear: 2 weeks of complete rest, no work, no lifting. Still weak and hooked to machines, I gently explained this to Mark. His eyes turned cold. In that moment, I stopped being his stepdaughter and became a problem. Early one morning, the hospital room was painfully bright: white walls, steady beeps, harsh fluorescent light. I was counting cracks in the ceiling to distract from the ache when Mark stormed in. No greeting, no concern for me, just anger about money, bills, and how I wasn't pulling my weight. I repeated the doctor's orders as calmly as I could. He laughed bitterly. Then he said the words that still echo in my darkest moments: "You better start earning your keep." I couldn't believe it. I was barely able to move. I whispered that I physically couldn't work. His face hardened into something terrifyingly calm. He leaned close and called me dramatic, weak, and a faker. Then his hand struck my face. The blow sent me sliding from the bed, tangled in wires and sheets. I hit the floor hard. My breath was gone. Cold tiles pressed against my bleeding cheek. Blood filled my mouth. My hands shook as I tried to push myself up. More heartbroken than afraid, he stood over me and snarled, "Stop pretending you're weak." The room exploded with noise, running footsteps, and shouts for security. Nurses rushed in, faces filled with shock and fury. One knelt beside me, her voice shaking as she told me not to move. Police arrived moments later, taking in the blood, the overturned equipment, and me crumpled on the floor. Mark switched to smooth excuses and thin smiles. But lying there under the lights, something inside me shifted. That slap wasn't a mistake. It was the mask finally coming off. I was discharged a day later than planned, not because of my injury, but because the staff moved carefully around me as if I might break. A nurse quietly slipped me a card with a website address while Mark argued at the front desk. She gave me a small, knowing nod I would never forget. Home felt smaller, quieter, and wrong. Mom hovered anxiously, apologizing for everything and nothing, forgetting simple words. Mark acted as if nothing had happened, cooking dinner, telling jokes, finishing Mom's sentences for her, and pressing those vitamins into her hand. Pain medication blurred the days, but it sharpened my vision. I noticed patterns. Mom's confusion was worst after certain meals. Financial papers vanished when I asked about them. Payments I knew I'd made no longer showed up. Late one night, I visited the website on the card. The words hit like punches: financial abuse, medical manipulation, isolation. It described our life perfectly. A neighbor brought soup and whispered that something wasn't right. Her daughter, a nurse, had noticed the pill bottles and dosages. That night, heart pounding, I picked the cheap lock on Mark's office door. Inside were neat folders filled with insurance policies in Mom's name only. Huge payouts, dates that matched the start of her decline exactly. My hands shook, but my mind cleared. This wasn't accident or stress. This was deliberate. I put everything back and lay awake until dawn, fear and fury burning side by side. I stopped asking questions. I moved slowly, spoke softly, and let him think I was beaten. He relaxed and grew careless. While he believed he'd won, I searched quietly. Public records, old addresses, past names. I found them. Other women, same pattern. Quick marriages, shared finances, sudden illnesses, bitter endings. I sent one careful message. Her reply came fast. "You too?" She added me to a private group of women who had lived versions of my nightmare. Their stories, documents, and timelines were almost identical to ours. They didn't dramatize, they simply shared facts. One knew the law inside out. Another had saved every piece of evidence. For the first time, I wasn't alone. The neighbor's daughter visited and watched Mark mix unmarked powder into Mom's smoothie. Later, alone with me, she said the combinations and amounts could explain everything. It wasn't official proof, but it was enough. I started keeping careful records, conversations, meal times, money movements. Mark grew bold, talking openly on the phone, assuming no one listened. Then he made his final move. He came home smiling, carrying a folder. "Power of attorney papers, temporary," he said, because Mom was so confused lately. Her trembling hand reached for the pen. I forced myself to stay calm and asked quietly if we shouldn't have a neutral witness for something so important. He hesitated, then agreed to next week. That week changed everything. The women in the group guided me on what evidence mattered most. I spoke carefully to professionals, showing them what I had. The plan came together quickly. One evening, Mark left for his league game, cheerful, kissing Mom's forehead like he owned her future. 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Calm authorities entered. Badges, gentle medical staff. Mom answered questions with a clarity that brought tears to my eyes. Documents were collected, devices seized, and everything done properly and quietly. Across town, officers approached Mark mid-boast. His laugh died as handcuffs clicked. When they brought him back to the house, the scene broke him. Mom sat safe and alert on the couch. His office stood empty. I stood in the doorway, no longer afraid. He tried to explain, to bargain, and to claim family privacy. I looked him in the eye and said, "The truth doesn't need privacy." As they led him away, he had nothing left to say. Tests confirmed the poisoning. Financial reviews uncovered layers of fraud. More women came forward. His lies collapsed under the weight of evidence. Mom spent time in care, and within days the fog lifted. Her mind sharpened and her color returned. She cried when she understood what had happened and cried harder knowing it was over. Our house breathed again. Windows opened. Bills lay openly on the table. We talked about everything we'd lost and everything we'd regained. Justice moved forward steadily, built on facts and strengthened by other voices. I returned to work slowly, then began volunteering, helping others spot the signs we had missed. One quiet evening, Mom hung a new photo on the wall, just the two of us, smiling without shadows. Betrayal can wear the face of help. Control can sound like concern, but one moment of clarity can change everything. Mom took my hand that night, her grip strong and sure, the way it used to be. We sat together in peace, which we hadn't known for years. The weight was gone. Healing came gently, but it came. Her laughter filled the rooms again, real and bright. Our home felt alive, free. I found my strength not in his downfall, but in our rising. If this story touched you, hit like to shine light for those still in the dark, share your truth in the comments to remind others they're not alone, and subscribe to stand with us in quiet, unbreakable strength.